boys, let us move to our third and final featured bout on this card, and that is in the featherweight division as number 3, Arnold Allen takes on number 8, Movsar Evloev. And the reason that we are featuring this bout mainly is because I think this is a huge fight for this 145-pound division, and I genuinely think winner of this fight is probably just one more win away from fighting for a title. So, depending how Volk and Topuria goes, whoever wins this may be in a title fight later this year, if not early next year, with another win. Again, just my opinion, but regardless, it's a big fight for the top of this division, and we will start with the almighty Arnold Allen, who is coming into this fight off his first UFC loss and just the second of his career, as he came up short to Max Holloway back in April of last year. Before that loss, though, Allen was on a 12-fight winning streak in his career, with 10 of those coming inside the UFC, and one of the only guys who can rival that streak is his opponent, Evloev, who comes into this fight a perfect 17-0 in his mixed martial arts career, with 7 of those coming inside the UFC. His last win was against our 2023 Rookie of the Year, Diego Lopez, who gave Evloev all he could handle on short notice. But Evloev coming out victorious nonetheless, and I think this is going to be very interesting, and I'm very interested to see your guys' thoughts on this matchup. We will begin with Brandon. Who you taking?
Yeah, so my heart is definitely with Arnold Allen here. Big fan of his, and I'm a big believer in TriStar and Faraz. So this matchup itself is interesting because Arnold Allen has very good takedown defense. I think he's defended the last 15 takedowns attempted against him. But this is Evloev, so he's a different animal in that department, right? So it's going to be very interesting to see if A, he can defend those takedowns, but B, what happens if he does get taken down? What's his ability to get back up? Evloev has, I think he averages a high number of takedowns per fight. And the one thing that stands out to me about that is if you're getting that many takedowns in a fight, I don't feel like you're holding many people down. At least it wouldn't seem like that mathematically. So
almost 5.
Yeah, so that's a lot, which is good, right? 5 takedowns a fight's good, but at the same time, you're not holding people down at that rate. And we saw a lot of interesting sub attempts by Diego in his last fight that looked pretty good. And Allen's got some sneaky subs when people are shooting in on him. He's got some front chokes, some ninja chokes, and things like that. And again, he trains with Faraz Sahabi. So I'm going to lean Arnold Allen here. I'm going to actually take him by, this is a tough one. I don't know if I should go decision or if I should go, because I think Allen has the advantage on the feet as far as striking and power, but the wrestling is really that question mark for me. I'm going to take Arnold Allen by decision.
I think I have to go Evloev here. What makes him so good, and something I think is huge in this matchup, is the ability to take guys down. But not just that, it's taking guys down out in open space. His timing and speed at which he can level change, to me, is just elite. So not having to close the distance, I think, against a guy like Allen, who I think is probably the better striker, obviously, in this matchup. To me, that's huge. Now, I know he can still obviously get countered, trying to come in or shoot for a takedown. And honestly, Evloev's striking defense altogether kind of worries me a bit in this matchup. We saw him get pieced up a couple times in that Lopez fight. But again, the ability to get the fight down saved him every time. But again, not having to necessarily close. I mean, he will throw, some jabs, just try to set him up. He doesn't just shoot him naked. But it's not like he needs a guy against the cage, or he has to use dirty boxing or something to get in tight. I mean, he can just do it, and he's the speed and which he can do it is unreal. And once he's on top of guys, I think once he's on top, I mean, I know what you're saying, Brandon, about not getting up, but I think a lot of that too is he's constantly looking for submissions. He is a guy that tries to finish a lot of fights, although it's not to much success. I know Lopez had success utilizing his jiu-jitsu to create scrambles and submission attempts, but I just don't know if Allen has that same level of grappling in his arsenal. Movsar was 4 of 7 in his takedowns in that Lopez fight, shot 7 times. He's had 2 fights where he's landed 9 takedowns as well, by the way. And when you look at Allen, you'd have to go back 5 fights, so 3 years total, to find an opponent who attempted more than 1 takedown on him in a fight. And that was Nick Lentz, who went 0 for 9 on takedowns in that fight. But I don't think anyone would argue Movsar is a bit of a different beast than Nick Lentz, although Nick Lentz did take Movsar down in their fight, so I guess you can take that for what it is, for what it's worth. But that stat alone kind of tells me Allen hasn't had to worry about takedowns for a while. And he's now in a fight where they're going to be coming early and often. Now, one thing I think we need to see from Evloev, I will say, which we haven't seen, is that big statement finish. You know, like I said there a minute ago, all 7 of his UFC bouts have been decision wins. But Allen has never been finished in his MMA career, so that's going to be a tough one. I think a decision is definitely the more likely outcome. So I will take Evloev by unanimous decision.
It's actually funny because Nick Lynch was going to be kind of the point that I put into this fight as far as, Allen stuffed 9 takedowns from Nick Lynch.
Yeah.
Obviously it's a common opponent for between them. And like you said, Nick Lynch was able to take Movsar down. But I think that one thing that's interesting to me is just that the well-roundedness of Arnold Allen, and obviously this is going to be a different level of wrestler than he faced, but I would also argue that this is probably a different level of striker for Movsar, somebody who can really put him out early, and somebody who's faced some of the best guys in the world, just not necessarily in the grappling department. But I'm not ready to fade Arnold Allen yet. I think that he still has a lot of promise, and I think that he's in a good camp. I think that there's not very many people who are going to beat Max Holloway in a stand-up fight, and that's just what happened in his last fight. I don't think because he didn't even fold in that fight. In the 5th round, he's still trying. He's still throwing things. So it lets you know that fight didn't break him. I think he uses that, turns us around here, and I think I'm going to take Arnold Allen by 2nd round TKO.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily fading Arnold Allen because of that last fight, because I agree with what you said, but even like that, what you said is to come in and just try to outstrike Max Holloway is you got to have a little bit more in the arsenal.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is I just don't think Movsar is going to come in and try to strike with him. I just don't see a world where Movsar he's an explosive, dynamic striker. I'm not saying he couldn't catch Allen, but if that's Movsar's plan, my pick's going to not go so well because I think Allen is the better striker, but I just don't think Movsar is coming in to strike. I think he's going to look again. I said he had two fights where he scored 9 takedowns. I think he attempted 16. He ain't gonna stop. He ain't never gonna stop. He's gonna shoot and shoot and shoot.
I just wonder what happens if that gets to a certain point to where it's just not working. Does he have a pivot?
But that's when it depends. Arnold Allen, like I said, 3 years he hasn't had. I think Sadiq Youssef was the only guy within that 3 years that. No, he only attempted 1. He was the one that attempted 1. And so when you don't have to worry about it so much in fights, it's just going to be interesting to see how he handles it. And
similar to Strickland too, right?
Yeah. A lot of these fights, even the Myro one, there's a lot of similarities in a lot of these fights. So
you're going to learn a lot about wrestling.
Absolutely.